We are going to be drawing a picture that is telling a story. So if you can take ideas that are just super basic, or you can take and you can expand them quite a bit. So for example, I am going to be drawing a picture and I'm going to be illustrating a story. It can be a story that has already been made or one that you create. So for example, it could be basic where I show the picture of a book, and then I have things coming out from the book that it would be very literal and show that it's telling the story popping out of the book. So this could be the book, and I would show things coming out of the book. So for example, I could have buildings coming out. Maybe I want to have like a village or something kind of interesting coming out of the book. Everything I'm going to make, I'm going to try to make it 3D so it looks a little bit more realistic as opposed to something kind of flat. I could have things in my book or my story that I'm showing characters. I can use actual characters that have been created or invented. I can also create my own. So I could show here where it looks like it's kind of coming up through the pages. You can also make it so it looks like it's breaking through the pages. So it looks like it's actually popping up through there. I can incorporate other things in the middle so it looks like it's actually popping up through the center of the book. So I could go up like this and also making it 3D show that that would be something that's coming up from the middle of the book. Now, you can either take something really literal where it's the book, or what you could do is you can take something that is maybe not so literal. So for example, you could take the paper and it would look like a big keyhole. And then what you could do is you could draw a story inside of the keyhole. So for example, if I was somebody sitting on the outside of this keyhole and looking through, I could see pictures maybe of a landscape. I could see characters possibly popping through, so I could have a character here that maybe looks like the hand is kind of, coming out around the side of it, so it's coming out. I could have also really interesting things on the outside, so it could be, vines with flowers. You can have all kinds of really interesting things when it's telling the story. One of the things you want to keep in mind is you want to fill in the entire paper, and you want to make sure that you have a very evident theme. So you don't want to have all kinds of random things just kind of shoved onto a piece of paper so it doesn't make sense. So for example, if I chose the picture, the book Cinderella, and I wanted to illustrate it, I would illustrate all the different parts of Cinderella, but I'd put it together so that it makes sense and it told the story of that particular scene or whatever it is it was trying to talk about. I have an example of one of the book ones, and unfortunately it's very big, but I wanted to show you how I have really interesting things like a village kind of coming up out of a book, and then I have fairies that are actually ripping through too. The cool thing is the way you color it is going to make it look three-dimensional, and it's going to make it look like it actually is coming alive and coming out of the book. You'll notice here some of the characters that I have, they're very small, so if you look how the size of them up to my finger. And then through here, I have more things kind of coming up, okay? Changing up the ideas, changing up the creativity, and all the details. The more details you add, the better. So, you are to create a story that is illustrated somehow on your paper. Using the entire paper, fill it in. You want to have at least 5 different objects or characters. And details are key. So you want to make sure that you have lots of details. Everything is going to be drawn out on a sketch first, and then you're going to incorporate it to a final copy. Now, my final copy was on very large paper. Whatever type of paper you have at home is fine. Keep in mind, though, the size of the paper is going to dictate to you how many details and how big the details need to be. Because if I'm using a smaller piece of paper, I'm going to probably have to put a lot tinier details onto it to make sure that I can fit everything in. Once everything is drawn in, you're going to color it in using the color blending technique. So if you use colored pencils, you're going to want colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So obviously colors that are next to each other are going to blend better. So if I was going to color in one section here, I could use blue. Now pink isn't necessarily right next to it on the color wheel, but red is. So I could take and I could make my red, and then you can push hard on the other side, and then you're gonna mix it together. So you're gonna have kind of this really neat blend, and it's gonna make it look a little bit more 3D and three-dimensional.